Hi everyone, it's Lindsay with High Altitude Astrology, and I'm here today bringing you a video about the full moon in Aries that's happening today, October 13th at 3:08 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and it's occurring at 20 degrees 14 minutes of Aries. So I have the chart pulled up on the screen that I wanted to share and talk with you about what this full moon is bringing up. So, first of all, full moons occur every month, and they happen when the sun, as you can see here, and the moon over here are exactly 180 degrees apart from one another. And symbolically, what full moons symbolize is a revelatory time because it's involving the sun, which has to do with our solar nature, our light, how we shine out into the world, to a certain extent, our ego, our spirit, and then the moon, which has to do with our emotions and our feelings and our subconscious drives, um, our emotional expression. So at a full moon time, they can be, to some extent, operating at odds or just in different ways from one another. But at the same time, there's an opportunity to become more aware of how these energies operate within ourselves and to make adjustments and to allow for some sort of more harmonious expression of the two of the energies together. So in this case, we're dealing with the sun in Libra, which is about expressing our light, shining our light out into the world in a harmonious way, in a diplomatic way, in a fair way, uh, dealing with relationships, dealing with the other in our lives. But then the opposite is the moon, the expression of our emotion, the expression of our feelings through the sign of Aries, which is all about self-assertion and like an intensity. Aries is symbolic of springtime. It's the first sign of the zodiac, and it's about the self-assertion. So a lot of times, when we have moon and Aries energy operating, it's very much about expressing how we feel and expressing how you know our needs, which is dealing with the moon, need to be met, getting our needs met. So there's something at this time that's talking about how do we balance those two energies together. Now, I said the full moon is happening at 3:08 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and want to mention just a couple of things that are occurring around that time as well. Uh, right now, the moon is trining Jupiter. So the moon at 20 degrees of Aries is creating what's called a trine, or a 120-degree angle right here to Jupiter at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. And Jupiter is all about expansion and growth and inviting new perspective into our lives and seeing a bigger picture. And especially in the sign of Sagittarius, which is the sign that Jupiter rules, Jupiter's really expressing itself in a very pure way in the sign of Sag. And so this is suggesting that the moon, our emotions and our feelings, can blend easily with the concept or the principle of new insight, new awareness, expanded perspective. Jupiter also has a lot to do with joviality and upbeat and seeing possibility and seeing new futures. So really, that's kind of a nice energy as we move into this full moon time. It means that there is an opportunity here for us to express our emotions that have to do with self-assertion in combination with creating a better future, creating a new new opportunities for ourselves in our lives. Now, that happens just before the full moon. It culminates around 2:55 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then we are moving towards that full moon. Now, just after the full moon at 3:59, within the next hour after the full moon, 3:59 Mountain Standard Time, what is going to be occurring is Pluto, right here at 20 degrees of Capricorn, is going to be squaring the moon. So this is going to change the dynamics of the full moon because it's bringing in a Plutonian element to this full moon time. Now, Pluto represents the underworld. Pluto is symbolic of death and transformation and change and looking deeply into ourselves and the unconscious being brought out from the shadows into our awareness. Now, when it's with a square energy to any planet, really, what it suggests is that we need to work at this time to really kind of connect with those deeper energies and bring them into the light. Because if they're operating from an unconscious place, then the energy gets a little bit out of hand and becomes more what you might call the negative or the shadow side of the expression of Pluto, which would be more like trying to control or trying to manipulate or being really driven by unconscious impulses that we're finding hard to master or control. So it's really kind of an opportunity where we can begin to see where might we be self-asserting based on our emotions and our feelings in ways that are really coming from a more unconscious place in our life, really coming from a place of trying, to manipulate and control situations that might just be best letting go of, or at the very least that we can see, where we might want to create change and transformation and bringing that energy or that opportunity to the expression of our emotional self, So really, it just is suggesting this could be a very impulsive time where we need to be more aware of how we are expressing ourselves in an emotional way, and really striving more for harmony and balance in the way that we shine our light out into the world, rather than just kind of trying to bulldoze or control things so much that we're sort of drawn into these unconscious ways of operating. We really need to be sensitive at this time to just not flying off the handle or not impulsively reacting, because Moon and Pluto together, especially Moon and Aries, could really kind of invite that in and leave a lot of havoc and destruction in its wake. Now, it doesn't mean we can't use this intense energy for some sort of change for ourselves. One of the things that I've been observing and might be a time to address at this full moon is where are like compulsions, addictions, hidden drives operating in our lives. Because the moon in Aries can be very impulsive, and Pluto in Capricorn, again, if it's operating out of the square energy in a more unconscious way, can really be driving us to express our energy in very addictive and compulsive ways, because it's not in our awareness. It's not being operating in our awareness enough. So this could be a great time for really becoming more aware of where compulsion and where addiction might be operating for us, and really using this time to address that and to make changes around that. so that's one possibility of how this full moon could manifest. And what's really cool too is that Saturn is there next to Pluto, and of course this has been happening for a while, and this energy will culminate in January, the Saturn Pluto conjunction. But one of the ways I've been seeing the Saturn Pluto operating is, Pluto, if it is symbolic of these compulsions and addictions, Saturn has to do with work and effort and discipline. So there is, and in Capricorn, Capricorn is that mountain goat climbing the hill, never stopping until it reaches its destination. So there's a lot of effort right now that can be put into changing our addictions, changing our compulsive drives, and then how they manifest instinctively in this Aryan sort of also impulsive, sort of going for it type of way. There's a lot of energy here to really address and establish new ways of relating to these kind of old issues in our life, and perhaps really creating some effective change with the Saturn Pluto conjunction there as well. Now, there's a couple of other things going on. Mercury has moved into Scorpio for a while now, but it's now in its what's called shadow phase, which means it's moved into the degree, which was 12 degrees of Scorpio, that it's going to be retrograding to. And the retrograde happens at the very end of October, on the 31st, Halloween, at 27 degrees of Scorpio. And it retrogrades until November 20th at 11 degrees 35 minutes, when it turns direct of Scorpio. And then it starts heading forward again. So around this degree of 13 Scorpio, where Mercury is now, is where Mercury is going to retrograde to. So Mercury is now considered in its shadow phase because it's going to retrograde back to that degree. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because Mercury is in Scorpio, which Pluto rules. And Mercury is all about our thinking and our communicating. And Scorpio is Pluto ruled, going deep into our unconscious, our subconscious, and retrieving the sort of hidden elements that operate there and bringing them out into light. So it's really a time of getting very honest, getting very clear about communicating what we are thinking. So this is a time that we can really begin to go into that process of beginning to get in touch with how we're really truly thinking and feeling about things. So it's just significant at this full moon time that Mercury has just started its shadow movement as it's heading towards the retrograde at the end of October. And just another thing to begin to consider, to begin to observe, where are we, what are we thinking about in relation to these sort of deeper connections in our lives with others, and how we are expressing ourselves, what we are sharing, what needs to be shared. How is the Mercury element operating within ourselves? And I also wanted to point out that Mercury at this full moon time is creating a sextile over here to Saturn. A sextile is a 60-degree angle, and 60-degree angles have to do with opportunities. And so really what this is saying is that this full moon time, there's also an energy of Saturn doing the work, communicating and doing the work, are working together, and Saturn in Capricorn, Saturn rules Capricorn, so it's very comfortable in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn energy, I mean, we hear a lot about it's hard work and it's effort and it's structure and it's building foundation. But, Capricorn has to do with the Capricorn Cancer axis. And the way I look at Capricorn sometimes is, Cancer is our very deep feelings, our roots. But Capricorn is about building based on those very deep feelings and our roots. So there's something about Capricorn that really does have to do with personal authority and expressing our personal authority out into the world. And because it's connected to that deeper part of ourselves. So I see this Mercury sextiling Saturn, which it will return, this connection between the two energies when Mercury retrogrades and then stations as it moves forward. Once it finally comes direct again in late November. So this connection between Mercury and Saturn, there's something very important about those two energies as we move in, to this time and then all the way through the retrograde of Mercury, that's really assisting us, it's bolstering us in expressing our truth around things. And it's just another piece of the puzzle at this full moon time that we can begin to pay attention to, what is it that we're really thinking, and deep down, what are our passions, what are our drives, what really turns us on. That's all Scorpio stuff. Plus Venus is in Scorpio right now too, so that's really about, what is it that we're really being driven by. What are our pleasures? These are very important questions to ask ourselves at this time. And how can we move towards making, our lives more in alignment, making the structures and the foundations in our lives more in alignment with what we think and what we're driven by passionately. So the last thing I want to talk about regarding this full moon is the fact that not only is Pluto being squared by the full moon, but we've also got the Sun and Pluto squaring. Now, this is going to culminate tomorrow, Monday, October 14th, very early in the morning at 1:34 Mountain Standard Time. But it's another piece to this full moon time because the Sun is all about how we shine out into the world. It's our solar expression. It's our solar light. It's how we radiate. And it's really kind of how all of these other energies, how they sort of are brought forth into our world. And the Sun, of course, is in the sign of Libra right now, which is focused on expressing ourselves with dignity, with fairness, with what are some other Libra words? I'm just gonna use a little support here from my Wheel of Astrology. This is a fun little tool that I use sometimes. And Libra words: harmony, diplomacy, equality, artistic awareness and expression, partnership, a sense of social justice, congeniality, thoughtfulness, diplomacy, or indecision, codependence, and laziness. Now, those are some key words because when you've got Pluto squaring the Sun, that can suggest that maybe some of those shadow expressions of Libra, indecision, codependency, are being brought forth to be transformed by the Plutonian energy. Because that's what Pluto wants to do. It wants to reveal to us, where are we not really operating in awareness and in consciousness? What elements in our unconscious are sort of driving our behavior that need to be brought into our awareness in order to be transformed? So this full moon time and moving into tomorrow can be a time where we're really being asked to kind of see, are there areas of our lives where perhaps, we are not really expressing ourselves truthfully because we're being hampered or we're being hindered by some of these indecisions and, oh, I don't want to, hurt the feelings of that person, you know, like those can be some Libra qualities, just like, oh, I'd rather not make the decision because it's gonna, you know, mean something concrete and it's gonna affect people in certain ways, and I don't want to be responsible for that, you know. But really, truly, Libra is about fairness, and it's about harmony, and it's about balance. So this square between Pluto and the Sun tomorrow can really help us, you know, find the strength to really you know, come forward in a more honest way, and give us some power. You know, Pluto is about power. I know I've talked a lot about it being sort of like the underworld and the seedier aspects of our lives, but when Pluto's operating in its power, when it's conscious, you know, we can really kind of make some strong decisions and move forward and like let go, and you know, not get sucked into all of the indecision and the concern and the worry. You know, Pluto's like, nope, I know, and I am, you know, doing this. So that's another sort of whole piece of this full moon. It's like if we can prevent ourselves from really operating from the more unconscious Plutonian ways, and let me get some keywords for that: manipulation, secrecy, and belligerence. If we can prevent ourselves from operating in those ways and really move into the more sort of elevated ways of Pluto, which of course are passion, privacy, intimacy. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong ones. Facilitating transformation, creating reprogramming, expressing intensity and passion. So if we can really operate from those areas, then we can elevate the expression of that Sun in Libra, being more diplomatic, harmonious, but decisive in those processes. And also the Moon in Aries, which really brings us expressing our emotional self with a lot of courage and a lot of intensity and drive, but also like doing, you know, like, okay, we know how we feel, you know, it's confident in its expression. So I think those are all of the aspects of the full moon that I wanted to talk about. I hope everybody has a positive full moon, or at the very least is able to really kind of begin to, you know, see uh, where things are in your life and what things may need to be changed and transformed, and do it in the most positive of ways. I feel like we need to really remind ourselves to not be afraid, and to value ourselves, and to make the decisions, you know, that we need to make for ourselves in the most diplomatic way possible, and really, you know, embrace all the energy at this time, and know that the universe is working with us, helping us to create positive change and transformation for ourselves. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you like my videos, and I will be bringing you another video very soon. Take care.